Hello everyone, Dr. Tina Mims here. I am going to take you through, step by step, the Tupelo Sewing Machines Company case that's on page 81 in the Marketing Metrics book by Professor Gigi. If you will take time to familiarize yourself with the case and then come back to the spreadsheet here provided in your module, we will work on this case together. I may or may not have already covered this in class, so this is a video recording so that you can practice on your own. All right, now that you've taken a moment to read the case, hopefully you're using the Shell Excel spreadsheet labeled Chapter 4 Tupelo Sewing Machine Company Shell, and you have all of these items already typed in for you. So let's go step by step and identify what's in the case for us to input into the spreadsheet. So we have our input section that we've created, which is what you need to create when you're working on a case for a grade, and then we have our output section that's created. So let's look at the inputs by reading the case. Tupelo Sewing Machine manufactures a variety of these products. They're different sewing machines, and their marketing VP is reviewing a proposal that has a new product plan. The industry sales of sewing machine, this is the industry sales of sewing machines, is about 14,000 units in 2019. So in B7, we want to put in $14,000. We want to make sure we use the comma and get rid of the zeros to decrease the decimals if this sheet is not already formatted for you. Let's see what else we have here. In 2019, and our anticipated, this whole industry is anticipated to be about 10% higher. And so we're going to put 10%, make sure that's a percentage. There are 4 other competitors in the market. Okay, that's 4 other, but that doesn't include Tupelo. So we have 4 for the other, which makes our total competitive market 5, just in case we need to know it. And Tupelo is hoping to capture 20% of the market share goal. Okay, so let's fix this. This should be 2020 market share goal. Okay. Now, let's see what else they give us. Tupelo markets 3 sewing machine models, Alpha, Beta, and Delta, which retail for $800, $900, and $1,000 each. Now remember, this is the retail sales price, and then each of these sewing machines makes up, for example, Alpha makes up 35% of Tupelo's sales, Beta makes up 50%, and Delta makes up the remaining 15%. And I've got a little checkpoint in here. If you'll notice, I have added together these 3 proportions or percentage of sales that each model has and entered it so I can just double check to make sure we have 100% of all sales from Tupelo accounted for. Remember, these are retail sales number. Tupelo is the manufacturer. All right, let's go on to see what we have for fixed costs. There's a setup charge of about $140,000. Be sure and put the decimals in here to manufacture the machines. There is, let's go on down here to the salesperson's salary. There is $40,000 in fixed costs. There is, over here, $24,000 per salesperson in travel expenses. And the advertising budget is $160,000. And the marketing vice president makes $84,000. Okay? That takes care of the fixed costs that we don't have to add just our inputs. Remember, our outputs is where we do calculations. But we have some variable costs here. Outside of that setup charge, the material and label cost per machine is, for Alpha, $70 and $60 respectively. So that we can read that as $70 of material costs for the Alpha model, $60 in labor costs for the Alpha model. So let's just plug that in, $70 and then $60. And then for Beta, we have $190 respectively, so that's $100 for material and then $90 for labor. And then Delta is $120 for material and $140 for labor. So you can see all of those variable costs right there. Shipping and package expenses per machine, regardless of the model, is always $32. Okay, so we've got some of those inputs in. Let's see if there is other information. There's about the channel. Karen assesses relatively, let's see, about the channel. We're looking for the markup on sales costs for the channel. Here we go. The proposed market of sewing machines to wholesalers who mark up 20% on retail purchase price. So that is wholesalers mark up 20% on wholesaler's sales price, because the wholesaler's sales price is retailer's purchase price. So that means we have a 20% markup on sales price by the wholesaler, and then retail dealers mark up 40% on wholesaler's selling price. Well, wholesaler's selling price is retailer cost. So we have a 40% markup on cost by the retailers. That's going to be important to us when we work on our markup chain. There's some other information in here. We have 6 salespeople, which was indicated up here. Right, 6 individuals, annual salaries we've got in our fixed costs. Number of brochures, something that they told us about, but they didn't calculate the totals are, so we're just going to put this in other. There's 5,000 brochures at a price of $10 each. And finally, in this last paragraph, we learned that there was $1.6 million invested in this operation to begin with. Then we have the 3 scenarios. Let's just pull those down a little bit more so we can see them. There are 3 scenarios for this input section that we want to remind ourselves. First, the VP of Marketing says the first profit goal is to just make an additional $500,000 in profit. Okay, so let's enter $500,000. That's just a data point we're entering. The second is to make 25% return on that $1.6 million. So we're going to put in 0.25 and make sure that we make that a percentage. And then the last thing is we want to have a 15% profit on all sales. Well, that's per unit. So let's put that percent profit on all sales per unit. Okay. So we need to read that correctly as we saw in the case. Now we're ready to do some outputs and answer some questions. So I've got some of the questions here that we can see, and then I'll split the screen. Okay, move that down. I've got this information on the spreadsheet. You know how I like to put this, copy and paste this information on the spreadsheet so that we can look at it while we're working on it. Okay, there we go. Now we can see everything. All right, so question 1, our output section, is what is the weighted average of the retail unit selling price? Weighted average of the retail unit selling price. Well, let's see how we're going to accomplish that. We're going to accomplish that by taking each of the retail selling prices and multiplying them times their relationship or percentage of sales at the manufacturer's level. So let's take a look at what I've highlighted here. Here's the equation where we have the alpha sales price times the alpha's percentage of sales plus the beta's sales price plus the beta's percentage of sales plus the delta's sales price for that sewing machine times the delta's percentage of sales. So I can scroll up here and show you. Probably need to do that split screen now. So I'm going to take row 53, I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to hit Split. So now we can scroll up here and down here so we can look at those percentages. Now I'm going to double click this so you can see my equation and how basically I've parenthesized off each machine so that multiplication takes first before we add it to the weight that we're giving to the next machine and so forth. So this is called weighted average calculation. You take a number and you multiply it times its quote weight unquote in a particular group. So for this group, it happens to be all machines sold by Tupelo Sewing Machine, and alpha type machines are 35% of that group. So to weight the entire sales price for all sewing machines, we have to multiply their selling price times their weight in the group and then add it to the next sewing machine times its weight in the group, so that then we account for 100% of the sales. Hopefully that will help, and you can repeat this video a couple of times. Also, maybe take a moment and Google weighted averages. Also look in the book in chapter 7, there's a discussion, chapter 4, there's a discussion about weighted averages. All right, now I already have a hint here on what we're going to do next, because we need to, in our questions, we need to, I'm going to get rid of that real quick. In our question 1, it says, using this information, now we can calculate this wholesaler's selling price of the machine, which then we can also determine the manufacturer's selling price of the machine. All right. Well, now to do that, I'm going to put that split screen up here again. View, split screen. Okay. We're going to use Formula 4. Now let me bring up Formula 4. Let's bring up Formula 4. We have to calculate, make that forward, bring to front. I'm just moving this so we can see that formula again. All right, so let's take a look at this. We needed to use Formula 4 to calculate the wholesaler unit selling price. Let's see what we have here. We've got, essentially, we need to determine the wholesaler's selling price, which is going to be actually the wholesaler's selling price, which we're going to use Formula 4 for, because we're going to take and calculate the retailer's markup on cost, which is also, let's make this retailer cost, which is also wholesaler selling price. So if we want to know why we're using Formula 4, it's because we have the markup and cost for the retailer, and if we need to calculate the cost for the retailer, we know that the cost for the retailer is also the wholesaler's selling price. So that's why we're using Formula 4. In essence, we're calculating cost. All right, so let's see what we've done here. We're going to take our weighted average unit selling price, which we know, and we're going to divide it by 1 plus that 40% markup on cost, because that's Formula 4. Therefore, we get $628.57. Then, now that we know the cost for the retailer, which is the wholesaler's selling price, we can now determine what is TSMC's, Tupelo's selling price, which is what? It's also the wholesaler's cost. I'm going to just type that in here so we can remind ourselves. All right, So let's take a look at that formula. We're going to use F1. Why? Because here again, we're calculating the wholesaler's cost. We have the wholesaler's selling price. Therefore, we're going to use Formula 1 to calculate the cost, which is using the wholesaler's selling price and multiplying it times 1 minus the markup on sales price by the wholesaler. So you might want to take a minute and repeat this portion of the video again, just in case you're not quite comfortable with why we are calculating retailer cost and using Formula 4. Just the key here is to take a moment and remember that retailer cost is wholesaler selling price. Wholesaler's cost is manufacturer's selling price. Okay? That's the biggest, I would say, careful understanding that is required to really get this markup chain correct. Okay? I'm going to stop the video at this point and pick up the remainder of the outputs in another video. So look for video 2.